Hey guys, this is Janika, and today for my case study, we will be going over the Exxon Valdez oil spill and the response that was taken, the impacts, how crisis communication was used. And this is important because we need to remember the multiple causes that basically put this into effect. And the main message, let's go into that. Let's start with what was the main message, what was the audience, and honestly, what were the historical and cultural contexts that were taken to this level? So, the main message of ExxonMobil during the oil spill consisted of three main things: there was the cleanup efforts, the environmental protection, and finally, corporate responsibility for the accident itself. And then, let's see what audiences were involved within this incident, shall we? So, our top two most targeted audiences that were impacted were your local communities and your government agencies. The local communities, especially those who were directly impacted during the spill, were primary to this. And as far as the government, the entities were crucial stakeholders in this, as far as open communication and collaboration with the other people involved. So, the three main historical contexts include oil growth in the industry, environmental awareness, and regulatory environment. This also falls with the Oil Pollution Act of 1990, which was enacted in response to the spill, highlighting that we needed stricter regulations for the industry. And for cultural context, we have connection to nature, public trust in corporations, and finally, we go to media influence. So, the message is important for three different reasons. One, environmental impact awareness. How did this environmental impact? Oh, God, there's so many ways. Not even we could think that how much was endangered. Corporate accountability. Did they take accountability? If what would have happened if they didn't? Also, the legislative changes that occurred, especially when it came to this oil spill and they had to pull out the Oil Pollution Act in 1990 as a sign to what happens and remind people of what can happen if this doesn't go according. So, as far as the oil spill goes, from the rhetorical aspect, from visuals and symbols of the crisis, pathos was used the most as an emotional handle on the situation. I mean, people could look like this and you wouldn't know, like, what's going on. And the message was framed to influence unity, but also urgency for the urgency of the situation. I mean, if you look up on the screen, you'll see a bunch of pictures that represent different ways that people saw this, the aspects that were taken to handle this problem. And this was put on TV, newspapers, through speeches, radio. There were thousands of ways people could have known, and not a lot of people wanted to do a thing about it until they realized that something was going on in their community. So, yeah, the message was successful, and the cleanup efforts were helpful because volunteers came out and were helping, especially cleaning up the dirty water and the wildlife that got impacted and sick. And the biggest outcome was the public awareness because of this crisis showed how important it is to communicate big incidents and how to communicate with other groups that are willing to give a hand in these efforts. Sure, there was some criticism and controversy over what was going on, what actions were being taken, was there a proper approach, or did they all just jump right in? Honestly, nobody could really know. And communication today, communicators can take back a lot from this because of how much impact there was. And what can communicators learn? It still influences it only because this is a crisis. And in an organizational crisis, you have to be prepared for every scenario. You need to have a crisis strategy in place for what you need or what needs to be done. And if it doesn't work the first time, go for something else. Maybe have two or three in case of something that happens like this for the future. And just from reading what I have here, communicators can learn about this crisis because, say, they have an organization of their own, They need to have a strategic plan and smart goals in place for this crisis. I mean, the first goal you have, get the oil, the biggest goal, have the oil cleaned up, measurable. And then you need to think about how long is this going to take in the time bound sense. Relevancy. Is it basically it's all there, straightforward. And communicators today need to learn how to handle a huge crisis. Especially us in college, we need to learn how to handle a crisis. Sometimes we handle a baby crisis or we handle a large one. It varies. And sure, we learn still about this through TV and media, not to mention the ways that people see this through documentation and the forms of visuals. And if I would have changed the campaign, honestly, I would have done a lot more spreading the word and getting more volunteers because there was only so much that those people could do in that amount of time. And that's stressful. That's extremely stressful for hundreds of people, whether it's your local communities, your environmental groups, your government agencies, the stakeholders involved. Oh, the stakeholders and investors is a big one. And let's not forget the general public who literally everybody who put everything out there that they could about this incident and how it impacted us. To conclude this presentation, I want to say that to everyone who did help with the Exxon Valdez oil spill response, thank you for helping those people, and thank you for helping the wildlife and the environment itself. And there's so much that all of us can do if we can contribute in our own way. We need to create campaigns and strategies that will help to prevent future incidences like this from happening. It's a big deal, and not everybody sees that. Everybody sees a crisis, and some people think, oh, I don't know what to do. Maybe we should do this. You always need to have a plan in place. You always need to have strategies in place. And to communicators today, this case study would help you to see the multiple aspects that people took to get this whole entire job done and what it would mean today if we were to have it happen again. Thank you.